thank you. Thank you all very much, and thank you for that. Thank you to Frank and the Center for the award, and thank you, Jim, for being here tonight. And I'm going to buy you a coat at some point. But, these wrestling guys, they think they don't have to wear sports coats, but very kind, and it's very kind of all of you to be here tonight and to give me this award. And I will tell you, if it wasn't for all of you, I couldn't have done this. If it wasn't for guys like Jim and Louie and Dave that are here tonight, I think Perry's somewhere here too, I couldn't have done this. Because I will tell you, even though I knew what they had done was wrong, if it wouldn't have been for the conservative movement and the people around this country who wrote letters, who called, who knew just by one thing that I was telling the truth, and you know what that one thing was? By the people who were attacking me. It was the people who were attacking me is why the American people stood up and said, why are they attacking this guy who seems to just be, saying things that may or may not have happened? Nobody knows what the truth is until it comes out. But it would have been really easy just to heckle me and ignore me, make fun of me. But instead, they tried to get me. And I will say, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of you who stood with me through these very, very difficult times. That not only me, but it's also the colleagues on the House Intelligence Committee. If you were a member on the House Intelligence Committee, it used to be fun work. And one of the reasons it was fun is because nobody even knew what you did. I know Frank Fleitz is here. He was on the committee for a long time. Fred's been for 6 years you were on the committee, right? 5 years under Chairman Hoekstra. And now there's a couple reasons why nobody knows what you do. One is you're down in the basement and you have no windows. Nobody can get in. The second reason is nobody believes that there's any intelligence in Congress, so why would they have a committee? So they don't believe it's a real committee anyway. But Jim is right. I mean, at the one time that really mattered, after Watergate, after the Select Committee was created, there were very archaic rules that were put in that nobody had ever used before, but somebody thought that maybe down the road there may be a time where the Congress is going to step in using the legislative branch of government, the powers vested in us by the Constitution, and have to use those powers because the executive branch and judicial branch go awry. And thankfully, the Select Committee was created with that rule, because without that rule and without the colleagues and the Republicans on the committee voting to exercise that rule, we would have never been able to declassify what you guys all know now was the dirt that was used, generated by the Clinton campaign, fake news stories created and used to spy on an American citizen and a Trump campaign associate. So let me tell you where we're at right now. I think a lot of people want to know how is this all going to end. So I don't know how it's going to end, but I can promise you this. We're on the verge of, I believe, having full transparency in this process. We need the president to do some more declassification. And the key to this declassification that we've talked about is that once we knew that the dossier, the dirt, and the fake news stories made up the bulk of the FISA. And we thought that would be enough for finally the mainstream news media to actually engage in this process and see that something had gone wrong. But what did they do? They buried it. They buried it, and then they switched the story to say, oh, no, well, actually it was somebody else. And there was all sorts of deflections. My Democratic colleagues put out their own memo, which in the end was actually very helpful because they put a lot of nice clues in there for us to use later. But what James Comey described as a mosaic, so when he was confronted with the question, well, didn't the dossier make up the bulk of the FISA? James Comey said, oh, no, it was really a mosaic. Well, I think you all have the right, the American people have the right to know what's left in that mosaic. And if you notice, one thing that happened when the FISA was finally, when Judicial Watch and other groups sued to get the 4 FISAs out so that you could all read them. I mean, obviously with heavy redactions. What did they say for the first few hours? Anybody remember? They said, oh, well, yeah, that was bad, but really the really bad stuff about the Trump campaign, it's buried in those redactions. And I said, you know what? You might be right. We probably should just declassify those, shouldn't we? And you haven't heard a peep from the media. You haven't heard a peep from the Democrats, the Democratic leadership. They're nowhere to be found. And you know why? Because it's, as I've said numerous times before, I think you guys all have a right to know, and I think you're going to be frightened by what you see. Now, the media is going to ignore it, but I think the people that are around this country that have been following this issue day by day, they know all the people involved. They know that there were major shenanigans involved in all of this. They're going to understand it. And I think it's really key to this election. I think it's key to this election. It's not just going to be about economic growth and running on the economy. It's also going to be about what the other side did to play dirty, to dirty up a campaign, but not do it through campaign tactics, but do it by corrupting the FBI and the DOJ. That is important for the American people to know, and we have to deliver that message going into October. And I'm very, very hopeful that the president will make these additional declassifications over the coming weeks. And I think the message really is going to boil down to this. Do you all think that it's okay to start a counterintelligence investigation using our intelligence services that are designed to go out and track terrorists and other bad guys around the world? Do you think it's okay to use those services to target an American political campaign? No. Absolutely not. Republicans, independents, Democrats all agree with that because that's what happened here. That's the key. That's where this all started to go wrong, was when that happened. Secondly, do you think it's okay to use dirt generated by one campaign and plant it with the FBI in order to go and get a warrant on an American citizen that's involved in the other campaign? It's not acceptable. And then I think the final thing that you all want to see is I think what the other things that they did are also unacceptable. And that should be our message between now and the end of until November will be, with this Congress, you have economic growth. You have a Congress that's doing our job, getting to the bottom of things. We're standing tough, standing tall when it's not easy, being attacked. But this is what you get when you have a Republican Congress. You may get mad at us sometimes, but economic growth and doing real oversight, getting to the bottom of problems, that's what you should expect from us. And I think that's the message that we need to deliver to the American people this fall to win re-election. I want to say just in closing, I want to say just a few things because we actually have more problems in this world other than Russia interference in our elections. We actually have a country called China. Nobody has heard about this because, quite frankly, the press hasn't covered it because they only want to talk about Russia. But our committee has been doing a long investigation of China, and we're really focusing on a few areas that Frank's folks here, or many of you are very well aware of this, but China is the real threat today, folks. I'm not discounting Russia. Russia's a threat. But China is the real threat. While we were sleeping, China has managed to not only build one of the world's largest militaries, they've managed to really dominate their region now, where they're a real force that are challenged directly the United States military. But also, it's what they've done covertly. So a lot of people know what they've done in Africa. It's been written about for years that they've gone in, built roads, built dams, built ports, loaned money, and have caused problems for many African nations with their ability to kind of control and manipulate those governments. But I think what many of you don't know about is that they've also done the same thing in countries that may surprise you. Countries all over Central and South America, even countries in Western Europe. So they have been very strategic going in and buying, and the financial meltdown in 2008 They saw that as an opportunity and they struck. They bought energy companies. They bought financial institutions. They invested in major infrastructure projects, not in Africa only, but all around the globe. And now you're starting to see the effects as they're now forcing countries one by one to change their votes in the UN on Taiwan. Just one good example. So this is a threat that has to be dealt with. And for the first time ever, I say this a lot to a lot of groups that I speak to, is that Donald Trump is not your typical Republican, right? I mean, as a guy who's a Reagan guy, California, conservative, kind of grew up as a Reagan conservative in California. Donald Trump is not what you would call your typical conservative. In fact, many people could say he's probably one of the more moderate Republicans that we've ever nominated, much less to win. But he's governing as the most conservative president we've ever had. And I will close with this. And you guys are going to think that I might be a little crazy, and maybe sometimes I am, but we're winning. We're winning. I hope you all understand that. The reason that they're attacking people like Jim Jordan and bringing up, total fake news stories, the reason that they're attacking me daily, the reason that they're attacking the president like they're attacking him, the reason that the press has completely, finally, essentially come out of their shell and became who they always were, is because they don't know what to do. So they've put everything out on the field. They've put everything they have out on the field, and this is really Nancy Pelosi's last stand. It really is. That's what this election is really about, the future of this country. And what we need, the base for all of you that are out there across the country to understand, is the reason they're putting up this fight, the reason that they have Antifa, the reason that they're protesting, the reason that they're causing all of these riots, the reason that they're doing things that you just normally wouldn't think you would see in this country. The reason that they're willing to actually corrupt the FBI and the DOJ. They're doing it because we're winning, folks. We're winning, and I think we have a good chance to win this fall if we all keep the faith, stay on message, and help out our colleagues. We can deliver this election in November. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for the award.